Hey guys, welcome to the Eye of the Watchers podcast, where we give you all the information you need to get hyped about League of Legends Esports. I am Sam, aka JustCasual. Since this is the first episode, just introduce myself a little bit. I do other podcasts with League of Legends. I've prattled here and there with esports, and this is basically like my big first kind of League of Legends Esports podcast. And I'm super excited to do this with my co-host Manny, aka Manster 415.
Yes. Or just Manster, because that's just like, I mean, either one. It's a long list of either the number or no number. But hi everyone, my name is Manny Manster Gomez, and I am a League of Legends coach for a collegiate team in Georgia Southern University's collegiate team, to be more exact. Um, I love League of Legends. I love esports, and League of Legends Esports is one of my specialties. I actually had a radio show a year ago about esports within League of Legends, and so I'm really excited to do this with my good friend Sam.
Yeah, you're referring to me, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Of
All right.
course.
So for this first episode, yeah, we're just here to have a good time and give you some good information. But let's get into it. Basically, the topic we're going to be talking about today is the All-Star event that's coming up soon. So basically, if you're not familiar with the All-Stars event, it's where the top players from leagues all around the world battle it out in an ultimate dream team tournament, including a 1v1 tournament. And this year, it's supposed to be even more competitive than ever. So just really quickly, I want to list 3 things that we've decided are probably the most interesting reasons to watch All Stars if you guys are not familiar with it, or maybe you just weren't interested in it before. This year, you should be checking out because 1, there's a 1v1 tournament, which is super hype. 2, we have pros playing on the new preseason patch. And then 3, if you're a fan of specific players or these super teams, it is really exciting. But before we get into breaking those reasons down, let's get you details if you are interested in what All Stars is about and where to check it out. Man, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, of course. So, details December 7th through the 10th is the main dates of the tournament. It's going to be 3 p.m. Pacific time. So, for everyone that had trouble watching Worlds because of it being in China, you're in luck actually, because it is going to be in LA. You can always watch any of this content within twitch.tv/Riot Games and youtube.com/LOL Esports. So that's pretty much like where you can catch it, what time it starts. It officially starts 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And then it's like 5 p.m. Central. For all the regions that are going to be there, obviously there are a lot of leagues, but we are going to be seeing the main regions as well as 3 wildcard regions that were kind of like chosen due to their power ranking in a way. So that's China, which is the LPL, Europe with the ULCS, Korea with the LCK. We have Thailand, pretty sure, with the LMS. North America with the NALCS. We're gonna have Southeast Asia, which with the GPL. We'll go into a little bit more detail about them because the way they're choosing the team is a bit different. But Turkey, TCL, and Brazil with the CBLOL. So as Sam was mentioning before, this year, I mean, all star events have been you choose your favorite players that you want to see play. The huge difference is that this year Riot Games wanted to make this a lot more serious. They wanted to make sure that the games were taken like it wasn't as jokingly as previous years with Team Fire, Team Ice. So this year they actually locked all the fan votes to your region, so you had to be of a specific region to vote for a specific team. So everyone voted for the players. There's going to be teams in 2 groups for best of 1 round robin. Similar to let's say Worlds groups, but because a lot like less teams. If you're a fan of the ULCS, it's kind of like what they were doing. Except it's just the best of 1. And the top 2 teams from each group advance to a best of 3 semifinal bracket based on group stage performance. The finals will be a best of 5, all played in the LA LCS studio. And then we have also the 1v1 tournament. So Sam, Want to
Yeah, for
break
the
that
one.
down for us?
Yeah, sure. So for the 1v1 tournament, we're gonna only be having 16 players, so it doesn't take all day long or all weekend long. So with 16 players, two of these players are from each region, and they're chosen by the coach of that region. Actually, the round of 16 and the quarterfinals are best of one, and then the semis and the finals are a best of three. So that will be really exciting. So let's just jump into it. Why we hinted at this before, why we should be watching All Stars, what's getting us hype about it. And the first thing we mentioned is 1v1 tournaments. Manny, what's so exciting about these 1v1 tournaments?
Well, man, I every year I see All Stars, the 1v1 tournament is always like so hype. You always have like these crazy moments, you know. And I think this year isn't really different, as even though it's not as fun, quote unquote. I mean, it is going to be still fun to watch, but it's not as a quirky tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I think 1v1s, it's like, will Faker, potentially be the 1v1 god, like it's usually Uzi doing really good. So I think like it's really fun to see, all these singular players play whatever champion to try to prove that they're the best mechanically.
Yeah, and I think again with a preseason patch, there's gonna be some crazy stuff that you can do. I think there's gonna be a lot of things that aren't figured out, right? And then it's interesting because the meta evolves during the whole 1v1 tournament. So we'll see
Right.
what kind of cheese people can bring, picking these one-off champions that are just complete counter to like everyone's playing Caitlyn. So I'm gonna play the hard counter to Caitlyn in this weird situation with this weird rune page and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about that. Also, Uzi is the reigning champ from last year, so he's here again. So we'll see if he defends his title. There are going to be a lot
Yeah.
of good contenders, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And I think what you mentioned is great for the entire tournament, really. Um, it hasn't been said which patch they're officially going to play on, but we know that it is going to be the preseason patch
Hmm.
for throughout the tournament, both 1v1s and the actual region versus region.
Hmm.
It if it's not the brand new like one, which would include Zoe, which we were talking about, before the show. We don't think if that she would actually be there because she's such a new champion.
Hmm.
It would be played on 7.22, which is, first preseason patch, and I think that it's just really, really fun, right? Like I think this preseason, I've been having so much fun with it. It's kind of brought new life to the game. It's really interesting. Finally being able to see the pros do what pros do,
Yeah,
is going to be really meta changing, I think, overall.
yeah. So as we've jumped in that second point that it's in the preseason patch, I mean, if you if you watch the LCS at all or any pro league at all, the meta and just what people are picking in games and what the flavor of the month is all like trickles down from professional play. And since we haven't had professional play yet, or there's been a few tournaments like the Garena All Stars is played on the preseason, and then we talked about the Kespa Cup, which is in Korea, is also being played in the
Yes.
preseason patch. But most likely, if you guys are listening to this, you're probably in North America or maybe Europe, and you probably aren't following those scenes. Most people
Yeah.
aren't on the Western Hemisphere. That being said, you might. But so this will probably be the first exposure that most of us, the majority of us, will have to the preseason and like what people are thinking is good. Um, so yeah, that's
Yep.
super exciting. And then you're gonna have that like person playing, I don't know what's Mordekaiser mid or Mordekaiser jungle because it was played on the preseason patch, and you're gonna be like terrified because it sucks, except in pro players. So you're gonna get some weird stuff happening, and you're gonna be angry in your solo queue games, I think, from this.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I mean, we've seen in Korea that Tristana jungle has been kind of like a niche pick. So I don't know. Maybe we see it in this tournament. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a really cool, and what Sam was saying is true. Like, yeah, like there are some tournaments that we've seen, and not all pros stream, right? So if a pro that you follow is coming to the tournament, you'll finally be able to see kind of like what they want to play, how they play it, what the runes they play. Like you'll see a lot of cool stuff with that, and I'm really, really excited for. for that in particular.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
So yeah,
think.
let's actually, so you've kind of are segueing us into all these points and I'm loving it. So the third point is if you're fans of specific players or the fans of like seeing these different players from different teams interact and kind of creating that dream team or the all-star team or super teams, this is the time that it happens because you don't see that happen unless by chance the rosters get mixed up somewhere in the preseason going into the actual season. But then, I mean, they're pretty much locked for the season. So we get to see
Yeah.
some crazy, crazy combination of players that are playing together, and that can get really, really exciting.
Yep. I completely agree. I mean, the thing is also, yeah, you can be a fan of, a team. For example, you could be a fan of TSM, but man, you really like Aframu and you don't really want to say it, but now you're gonna be able to see Aframu play, right? With Bjergsen, you're gonna be able to see Hanser play. Like there's a lot of champions. Oh yes, I guess a lot of pros that you would like to see play together that are finally going to be able to do that. Like and Sam, like what you were saying is so true. Like unless Team Liquid decides to buy everyone in the world, you won't really have like these super teams occur like that often. So I think it's really really fun. And even though this term is not supposed to be as quirky,
Mhm.
it's kind of like a Rift Rivals. Like Rift Rivals became like this new thing this year. But I think it was so much fun. I think it was like great seeing like these players play against other regions, without necessarily going to MSI, necessarily going to World. So I think it kind of adds that element as well. And
Cool.
I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, yeah. So a few things I actually want to talk about with that. We will be doing a future episode. Probably our next episode, we'll be talking about a little more of the rosters or like some hype matchups and why you should be watching certain team. So keep
Yes.
an ear out, I guess, for that. Uh, but besides that, right now, Manny, is there any teams or specific players that you're really excited to see from this event?
I'm always excited to see Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Faker, especially after, like the tragic loss of SKT. I mean, to some people it's really hype loss for them, but I think seeing him come back, I mean, yes, we have the Kespa Cup, but like you were saying, it's kind of like difficult. But seeing him like perform with other people, I think it's going to be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Korea is always a one to watch, and obviously NA gotta gotta keep our hopes up, and maybe we can win something.
Yeah, yeah. Who knows, right? Then the interesting
Yeah.
thing about this is that we don't know how competitive people are going to be in this. I mean, last year I think everyone, like players, were really, really competitive about the 1v1 because obviously they wanted to be like crowned the best player, singular, and like my team's not holding me back this year or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so who knows what kind of upsets you might see, which is also really exciting because then you could be like, wow, like we're gonna have that NA versus EU matchup if that happens in the group stages or whatever. That will be super hype because whoever wins is like, hey, even though Rift Arrow happens, now we know that EU is better or NA is better, and you'll have stupid bragging rights for like until MSI. So yeah, I think there's gonna be some fun stuff. And then yeah, like you mentioned, Korea. Holy moly, their
Yeah.
team roster looks absolutely scary.
Stacked.
So yeah, I'm super excited to see
Just
how well they'll steamroll, or also what kind of like fun picks they'll bring out, depending on
yeah, for
how
sure.
serious they approach this. Yeah, it could be really
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly. Granted, like again, like we were told that it was supposed to be more serious event. Doesn't mean like the picks and stuff necessarily like are gonna be like dead serious,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Things that we are losing from last year's All Stars to this year's, there's no more tandem mode, which, in case you guys don't know, tandem mode is one person playing on the keyboard, the other person on a mouse, stuff like that. Like it loses like these quirky game modes, but I think it still keeps like these competitive aspects of it that are gonna be like really fun to
Yeah.
watch.
Actually, what a great segue for something that's not in the show notes that I actually on the cuff want to put into this. I definitely don't want this. I want this podcast to like hype up people to get into watching the LCS. Sometimes when you're just playing the game, it's
Yes.
hard to get into the LCS, and we plan on describe like helping you guys understand more and more about like why, for example, pick and bans is interesting, so you can enjoy that, or uh, why explain things that happen that just don't make sense, or hopefully you can bring something into your solo queue games, or just like playing just something you've learned from what we're the content that we're trying to create. So with that, I don't want us to always be like, wow, Riot's doing awesome, and wow, League of Legends is great, and LCS is so much fun. Like, we don't want to fake that. So I do want to add a little segment that's not on our show notes right now about just like kind of what we're worried about, or what people are saying negatively about this event. And you kind of hinted at that there's no more, or not hinted at, you flat out said the format has changed.
Yeah.
It's not as serious. Before, we had like just fun games where you had like one for all, so everyone was like playing a 5v5 blitzcrank game, which was entertaining. Or like you said, tandem mode, where people are playing, one player's playing keyboard, one player's using the mouse, and all these kind of stuff. So now we're going to the a more competitive. And I think the big critique about that is like, no one's still going to take it serious, or people are saying that no one's still going to take it seriously because everyone's on off season. No one cares. What are the bragging? Like, it's just for bragging rights. Like, do people care about bragging rights? Kespa Cup is going on right now. How much is Korea actually going to be working on like preparing for the All-Star events, right? What are your opinions on that?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I really enjoyed last year's, and I think the year before, just seeing like the Fire and Ice, like, oh, it's EU versus NA, and then China versus Korea, like, and I think it was like super, super hype. And last year was in Barcelona, if I'm not
I think
mistaken,
that's correct.
and it was like so cool, right? Like, you get to travel the world, you get to see all these cool things, casters get to see, and you get to see your favorite casters from different regions, like casting a 1v1, casting this, you got so much more information. And I feel it's kind of getting
Mm-hmm.
lost a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we also talked about this last week, just when we had our conversation about this episode, was that it's just in the LCS studio, so it's like tickets are already sold out, like, and people, sure, like, some people are gonna have lots of fun, and I think it's still, again, a great thing, but like, it loses kind of like the quirkiness, which, like the NBA basketball, like, all stars, right? Like, NBA all-star
Mm-hmm.
event, like, they have crazy, like, 3-point contests, the slam dunk contest,
Yeah.
in baseball you see the home run derby, like, there's so many things that in other sports that you see, like, these crazy kind of game modes. And I feel like League decided to step away from that. I'm kind of interested, on how it's truly gonna pan out, but also a little bit, upset that it's not as quirky as it was. Because tandem mode, I think, was one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
There's nothing like seeing Bjergsen and Faker play together. Not only is there a language barrier, but one of them is using a mouse and the other one's using a keyboard.
Yeah.
Like, it's like all like stuff like that. And you're kind of like losing that a
Yeah,
bit. And
absolutely. It's funny because like, how cool would it be to see all the support players playing like Dark Star Thresh, like the Dark Star game mode,
yeah,
right?
that
That
would
would
be,
be really fun. That'd be really cool. Um, I yeah, I don't really.
or
I,
like everyone playing Earth.
yeah,
You have like Faker choose a random champion, just go crazy on
yeah, and
Earth.
what Riot says, like I'm reading off the article, it says we feel that pulling them out of their competitive mindset to play one-off fun game modes would inherently divert their focus and take away from the competitiveness of the main event. Like,
And that's fair. Like, I'm not gonna, like, because maybe, we don't
mhm,
know. Me and you personally don't know. What if teams are like, oh man, we have to go to All Star, right? For like the fans, it's a treat to watch,
yeah,
right? But I think the best way to compare it, actually, this like All Stars is kind of like to the NFL, like the Pro Bowl.
hmm
No one cares about the Pro Bowl. TBH,
Yeah.
if you do, I'm sorry. Don't mean to insult, but and it's more of like a serious game, right?
Uh-huh.
It's not as quirky and
Mhm.
stuff, and it's like I get it, especially because it's like this is right before a new season. Maybe teams are just saying, "Hey, we still want to practice like seriously. We need to get ready for a new season. Like, there's so many changes going on in teams. Maybe the teams were complaining about it, but maybe the players were like, yeah, it's not worth it.
Mhm.
And I still don't think they fixed that. I still don't think it's worth it for players to go. I mean, I'm pretty sure Double Lift talked about this in like a tweet or something. It's like you don't get anything for winning it. I'm pretty sure, aside from like bragging rights, or at least they haven't announced.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's like, oh yeah, I got to go, cool.
Yeah.
you know.
I
So
think one thing that they could implement is like after group stages and you've been eliminated, maybe like now you can still see your favorite players play silly games, right? So then you're removed from the competitiveness because you are out of the competition. So what's the harm for the players to be doing that, right? So if you still make it through, then
right,
yeah, it sucks that you don't see Faker probably, who I'm guessing will get out of group stages, like playing silly modes with someone else. But at least you still have silly modes, and you'll have like some good highlights, and I think you'll still hype it up, and have like people that want to watch the silliness still give them that outlet to get hyped about or get hyped about All Stars. And then you might bring those people into like watching actual competitive League of Legends and be like, wow, this is actually really cool, right? And vice versa. You could see
yeah,
people that are super super like, oh, meta, and you have to pick these and stuff, like kind of chill out and enjoy like a silly game mode. I don't know,
right,
but
yeah. I think it's an interesting experiment
mm-hmm,
that Riot Games is doing. I think kind of like to truly dive in. I mean, 100% it's changing next year. Like, there's no way it stays the same way, and there's no way it's also in the NALCS studio.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it might go to EU or something, or it might go to a huge venue.
Yeah,
Who knows?
exactly. So like, I think it's gonna be they did all these quirky things, so maybe they're gonna scale back and try to find that happy medium,
Sure.
right? See like the reception and stuff.
Yep, yep.
Uh, we'll probably see a bunch of Reddit posts about whether it's now fun.
Cool.
But
So the second thing that you segued us into yet again, location.
yeah,
So if you guys haven't read the full article or just kind of curious, like why is it gonna be in the NALCS studio? Because if you've ever been there, I think the broadcast does a really good job in showing that it's hiding that it's actually a really really small venue. I've been there. I was so shocked how small it was. Probably holds maybe 200 people, 100 people maybe. It's pretty small.
I want to say it's a I want to say that your original guess of 200 is probably closer. I
Mhm.
want to say maybe an in between would be safe, of like maybe
Yeah.
150, uh, give or take. But yeah, it's not like
Yeah.
huge. I think because they have two scenarios, like scenes, right? Which is like the battle arena and like the
Mhm.
studio. Like, I don't know, but I think yeah, it's not like neither are like big.
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing about this is that when I first heard this, I was kind of freaking like, why would you do that? Like people want to buy tickets, people want to go watch their favorite. Like I would love to be able to watch Faker if it was in the LA area because I can't fly to Korea and watch Faker. Like that'd be so cool. Or if I want to meet the players and stuff like that. So I was so surprised when they're gonna be like, hey, we're holding it in a small studio rather than like they don't need to sell at the Staples Center, but they can go to somewhere bigger, like some arena or some like rec center. I don't know, somewhere. But then actually, I think they make some really good points in the article where basically they want to keep it really chill for the players, and
Yeah.
they're focusing on the player experience rather than the live audience, which I think is actually really good because we mentioned this before. You're removing players from like right before a competitive uh before the competitive season starts up. That means they're losing practice time with their teams. They're not scrimming. They're kind of maybe having more fun, or maybe this is okay because they're staying competitive in the all-star events. I'm not really sure. So actually, I think that's actually a very good call by Riot to kind of like make sure that we can make sure that we're in a location that we know, we're in a venue that we know, and we can like really cater and make sure like the players have uh, food that we're aware of. They're in housing that's like acceptable that we are familiar with and stuff like that to kind of make sure the players kind of have it really easy. And especially for the NALCS players, it's gonna be like their front yard. So
Yeah,
that'll be
yeah.
nice.
I think yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, sadly, I didn't get tickets, but as the event got closer, I was like, man, I really just want to go to LA like for 3 days
Hmm.
and try to meet Faker. Like, like because you're right, it's not common that especially for our listeners, like unless you have a lot of cash and you could go to Korea whenever you want, it's like usually like not that typical.
Yeah.
So I think like being able to meet some of your idols in other regions is like really cool.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty sure I don't see a reason why they wouldn't do fan meets, especially in the NALCS studio. Like they do that after every game and stuff. So I think it'll be interesting. I mean, you know, it's a lot more player driven, and I'm okay with that. But I also want to have fun watching it. So I think it's gonna be an interesting, you know, watch
Sure.
to see how it goes.
Cool. Manny, is there anything else that you want to mention about just kind of like the critique about the event?
Um, like not really. I think maybe I wasn't. I understand why they locked the region voting,
Hmm.
but it was very upsetting not to be able to vote for some of my favorite players in other
You just want to
regions.
vote for Korea, right?
Not just Korea. Like I like there's like for example, notably, um, for Europe, no player from G2 is going,
Yeah, that's crazy.
and it's like they're the best team in EU, right? Like
Supposedly.
supposedly. I mean, they have won 4 consecutive years EU, so
Mhm.
4 consecutive splits. I mean, but like I think I'm not a huge fan of G2, but I think there's some players that deserved it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like not being able to vote for them. It's like yeah, it's kind of upsetting. But I think that would be my other like my final like quirk about that. It's like yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's
you
it's
know,
painful because we can't just send like everyone. We can't just like make like 5 teams and like group them all
right?
together. And it's interesting because I think at least for NA, I believe it's mostly it's a popularity contest. Really, it's like voting for a homecoming king and queen, right? Uh, at least
Yeah,
that's my opinion. I might be wrong, but I think that plays heavily into it. You might have like a really really for example, Xmithy is probably one of the top junglers in NA, but Mike Young got it, which actually I was surprised. But Mike Young has a lot of like hype around him, and I'm
yeah,
super excited
yeah,
that
for
he's going. I'm
sure.
really happy he's going. But Xmithy is a player that never, I felt, was always uh never had a presence when it came to popularity. He was kind of quiet. He doesn't get like involved in like trash talk I don't think he gets involved in trash talk. He doesn't have like a brand. He's not super active on social media compared to other people, but he's yeah, and he got beat out by Mike Young, who has I think more pizzazz behind him, just especially as a rookie. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think probably like out of like the regions that took it the most seriously, I want to say it's definitely Korea and China.
yes.
Like Korea, you only have Faker, right?
Hmm.
And then it's not like, oh, because for example, like Huni or Smeb, right? Like, granted, I'm not there, so I can't say, but like from what I know, like Smeb is a very popular like top laner. It's like he got beat out by Kuve, so it's kind of like a well, Kuve won, we want to win again. Like he won the worlds, like, and so I think it was very interesting and very like it still kind of is like a popularity contest, but it's more oriented of like, yeah, we want to win. I follow a bunch of people on Twitter, of like
Hmm.
esports, and I'm pretty sure someone from Brazil was like, Brazil, it's like 100% popularity contest. Like if they wanted to send like, players that would actually be good, like they ended up like sending no one that was like that could have given them a chance to win. And again, could be an opinion, but like that's what I heard. But I think that's kind of like, it kind of sucks, but I mean it is an all-star event, like that. Every all-star event is like that.
Yeah,
So I don't see like as big of an issue from that.
gotcha. Cool. All right. I think is that it? Are we good?
I I think we're
All
set.
right, cool. So, yep. That was the first episode of the Eye of the Watchers podcast. We covered the All Star event, why you guys should be watching, why we are hyped for it. The next episode will probably be on talking a little more about the matchups, the teams, and the players. So keep an eye out and an ear out for that when that gets posted. Besides that, thanks for listening to this episode, and we would love to hear your feedback. You can tweet us, email us, or whatever ways to contact us will be in the episode description. Besides that,
Yes.
we good to go, Manny?
Yeah, we're all set. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you liked it. First of many.
First of many. All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.